Roxanne, Roxanne. Roxanne, Roxanne. Roxanne, Roxanne. Roxanne, Roxanne.
Good afternoon, y'all. You are listening to Roxanne Roxanne, and I am your hostess with the mostest, Roxanne. Do I get an applause today? Thank you. Last week it was all beefed up. You know, I'm a little jelly. I got my partner in crime, 6 Starborn, in the building.
How's it going, y'all?
Real. I also have with me a very special guest in the house, Mr. Frankie Adams, a.k.a. the Kingologist.
What's up, y'all?
Yes. The Kingologist will be joining us during Roxanne's Roundtable R&R for our topic coined Black History Edition, Past, Present, and Future. Give it up. Give it up. Bravo, 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 bravo. How's everyone doing today?
I'm good.
How are you doing, Kingologist? Oh, me? I'm doing well, thank you. I'm doing well. How you doing, Frankie?
Fantastic.
Good. I just want to ask a question. Is anyone planning to see that movie 50 Shades of Grey? Or you trying to bring your girl with you? Trying to go hang out with the homies? Is that weird for the guys to do that?
The fellas, we don't go see that.
No,
together.
luxuriating in the 50 Shades of Grey.
No. That's like taking your homeboy to see like the Diana Ross concert. Or something like that, you know?
Why not? You can't bring your homeboy to see the Diana Ross concert?
No.
What about Stevie?
Hey, bro, you want to go see Stevie? You want to go see Prince together? Like, nah.
Stevie? Okay, Prince, come on, for crying out loud.
Mr. Frankie, you want to go see D'Angelo with me?
I don't think so.
Pause. I'm Mr. Frankie's like,
do it like
yeah, we don't
wow,
do it like
okay.
50 Shades of Grey, that's strictly take your girlfriend to see 50 Shades of Grey. But I'm not interested myself.
Well, it seems like a lot of women have been going. I guess that's been the women date night movies or whatever the case may be. Girls have been, going out with their girlfriends, whether they're in a relationship or just strictly platonic. And a lot of things have been happening. Recently, some women in England were arrested for fighting. This guy, they broke a bottle and slashed him with it. They had gotten a little bit inebriated, a little tipsy, and decided they wanted to start a ruckus. Then another place, I believe this was here in the United States, a woman was arrested for masturbating in the theater. Turned down for what?
Wow. Is the
Turned
movie
down
that
for what?
good? Is it that good?
Why did they arrest her?
I don't know. Public indecency, perhaps? But let me ask you a question. Now that we're talking about movies and actors and masturbation, but what are your thoughts on Eddie Murphy declining to do the skit on SNL? They wanted him to imitate Bill Cosby. What's this, their 40th anniversary, and Eddie Murphy was like...
He declined.
He declined. He was like, kiss my ass.
Yeah, he was like, I'm not going to participate.
Yeah, he said, I don't want to kick a man when he's down. I mean, you guys going to do that. So
regardless, right?
Yeah.
Are they not? Not to mention, didn't Bill Cosby back in the day have some not so favorable things to say about Eddie Murphy?
He did.
Yeah, he had some constructive criticism.
Can you refresh our memory? What did he say? Said he cussed way too much?
Something like
too
that.
Lewd,
yeah,
too
Eddie went to
crude?
Richard Pryor and told Richard Pryor, that Bill Cosby had approached him. And Richard Pryor said, well, I forgot what Richard Pryor said.
Oh, Lord.
But Eddie said, Richard Pryor said, well, if he's not...
If it's not your cup of tea, boo. I mean, I guess he wouldn't say boo.
Yeah, we can't cuss on here, can we? Because that's what Richard Pryor said. But some stuff we can't say on
Some
here.
expletives
Yeah.
again. But I have no problem with that. I really applaud you, Eddie Murphy. Seriously. We were watching Trading Places last night.
Yeah.
Funny
movie.
Very.
He's a funny man. But
that,
you know what, though?
That was one of his best.
One of
his best.
I saw that they then decided to shame Eddie Murphy even further by saying, his career is over because he refused to do the skit.
They wish.
So you didn't jump when we said jump. You didn't kick another black man when we told you to kick another black man, so now you're over.
Yeah.
I
Won
almost
yourself.
had the utmost respect for Eddie Murphy, but something did go wrong.
Well, maybe this might actually help you get your respect or regain your respect for him. He has a new song called "Oh Jaja."
That's the problem.
Oh, that's the problem.
That's the problem. And you know what? I'm gonna have to just let you hear a little clip of it off my phone.
Oh, jeez, you guys, I don't know. Just listen to this. Okay. He's gonna go in the White Cliff bucket.
I have a problem with non-Jamaican people making reggae music.
Non-West Indians per se, non-Caribbean, non-Jamaican.
Jamaicans.
Jamaican is exclusive.
Just
Reggae's exclusive to Jamaicans, right?
Yes, like you say, he goes in the Wyclef bucket for that one.
And Eddie, I don't even like to hear you sing as Donkey on Shrek. I hate his voice. I hate his singing voice. I love your comedy, but you like him on Shrek. I did
love My Girl Likes
You
to
like
Party
Donkey?
All the time.
But you know, just as comedians want to be singers, a lot of us singers want to be comedians as well.
And a lot of us regular folk want to be
Jamie Foxx.
Yeah.
Jamie Foxx, yeah.
Well, Jamie's just a genius. I mean, you know, he can do it all.
It took me a long time to recognize Jamie Foxx's talent.
Oh, I knew it at the beginning.
From the very
long
beginning?
Before he became as big as he is.
Yeah. From In Living Color.
Oh, yeah.
Remember?
And he does everything at a high level, not just at a low level.
Right.
I mean,
He plays to win
no
every
mediocre.
time.
Yeah.
No mediocre. Now, on to the next portion. This portion of the show is called Roxanne's Rant. For those who don't know, during this segment, I like to blow off a little steam, like to vent a little bit. Should I mention Six doesn't like to hear me venting anymore?
I
so
love to
you
hear
guys
you vent.
are my outlet. You are such a
love it.
liar. Gunshot, please. Oh!
And I get shot?
Right in your ass. All-Star Weekend was here in New York, and the temperatures was like 6 degrees, y'all. It was brick outside. Platinum, of course, my crew, and I went out to one of the official parties, because the whole thing about this, like whenever there's any event going on in New York, everything is deemed official.
Party.
Everything is official. But anyway, I guess it was semi-official because it was put on by one of the bigger radio stations here in New York. And Lil Wayne did make an appearance. Amber Rose was there, and so was Joel Santana. Now, I just want to say, we purchased our tickets in advance, but we still had to stand outside in the cold, which I am not feeling. Regular life is not me, especially when it's cold. You should have seen the women. They were scantily clad.
In 6 degree weather?
Scantily clad, no hosiery. The skirts looked like a tunic. That's how short they were. Very light jackets. You know, they were, hoping possibly to bump into a baller or whatever the case may be.
Okay.
But that's not really my issue. My issue, men. Now, see, whenever your grandmama or auntie, that was all fly back in the day, passed down a fur coat, you don't necessarily have to wear it. You
Pass it down to your sister.
You don't necessarily have to come outside sporting it. I've seen men rocking muskrat. I've seen men rocking kangaroo jack. I've seen men rocking squirrel. This one dude, see, the thing is with the coat check there, they did not take fur coats. So, of course, I'm walking around. That's another reason why I was so miserable. Partying with the youngins, I really wasn't feeling that part. And having to wear a coat the whole time wasn't cool for me. It wasn't sexy. Plus, I wasn't VIP, so I couldn't put it down. So I was regular folk. I'm always regular folk, even when I'm not regular folk. But this one dude had a full-length squirrel on. And not only was the coat just putrid, it was tattered, it was fraying. The armhole, like the area, the seams were disconnecting. There was a disconnect. It was matted.
Looked like the squirrel was out in the rain when they trapped him.
I feel like I could almost get nauseous. With you saying that and just the visuals in my mind, it was horrible. It looked like he could have had like a convertible coat, like maybe we could zip off the arms. But listen, even if it was a convertible coat, the only person that could pull that off is Kanye West. You ain't Kanye, boo. Respect his fashion sense. It was horrible. But that's my rant. Please, man, don't wear grandma's passed down coat. No bueno. No bueno. No bueno. This portion of the show is Ask Roxy. During this segment, Ooh. What's your name? I called them the other word. During this segment 6, we'll read a question written by one of our listeners, and I will offer some advice. For all advice questions, please email me at info@roxanneroxanne.rocks. I rocks. And remember, do as I say, not as I do. 6 Starborn, what you got for me? There's your format right there.
Oh.
You don't want it?
Well, I have it.
Okay. Round.
Okay. Dear Roxy.
Uh-huh.
This contains some foul language. I'm letting you know now.
What is this?
She says, Dear Roxy.
Yeah.
My man keeps calling me a nigger bitch during sex, and I hate it.
Oh my God.
I've been married for a year, and I'm at my wit's end. My husband's banker family is from white old money. I'm a first-generation black American whose family comes from the island of Jamaica.
More fire.
We met at a reunion for the Ivy League school we both attended, and he proposed in 6 months. We have the picture-perfect fantasy life. He wines and dines me, and we travel and shop the globe. Unlike all of the black men I've dated in the past, my husband is generous, loyal, committed, and considerate. Considerate? Okay. He courted me, and I never have to pay for anything. He said I can quit my job, and I did. He makes me feel like a woman. I'm a little embarrassed to share our problem. The first time he let the N-word drop was during sex on our honeymoon. When I reacted negatively, he explained that black women he dated in the past enjoyed being called racial slurs.
Wow.
Another time, he joked that he purchased my freedom. He also speculated about whether his family could have owned mine because I have good hair.
Turn
Then
down
he
for
makes
what?
jokes about my pubic hair. He calls it my Negro bush and referred to him as a nigger lover. He says I am being overly sensitive because he loves me to death and he should get a black pass for marrying me. Only we give out the black passes over here.
Basically, you don't just
you need
issue
to write
yourself.
to Roxanne Roxanne for one of those. But anyway, I told him that I don't appreciate these comments, and he says that my friends and family probably use the N-word all the time. He also asked why black people can use the word and he cannot. I don't use the word or believe in the nigger differentiation, you know, A,
Nigger,
and
nigga.
ER. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Neither does my family. I am too embarrassed to tell anyone about this because I know they might say, that's what she gets for marrying a white man. Every time we try to have sex, again, the slurs fly. Our sex life is pretty much over right now because I pretend to be asleep every time my sexy, handsome husband man wants to be with me. I feel completely turned off. I love my husband deeply, so please don't tell me to leave him because that's not what I want to do. My husband was my first interracial relationship. Please tell me racial slurs aren't normal between interracial couples. I would like to figure this out before we have kids. I can't afford to leave him and maintain my lifestyle. How can I regain my sexual attraction for my husband?
Curious what kind of advice you're going to give her.
Sorry, this was a long one, guys, but that's what she wrote.
Wow. Thank you for writing in. I don't know where to start. And guys, after this, please don't be discouraged to write in. And the great thing is, you don't have to leave your name. But first, I would like to say that this situation is over the top and it needs to be dealt with immediately. Your husband said that you can quit your husband said that you can quit your job. You obliged. Now he's saying that he purchased your freedom. There is a correlation here. Hint,
I didn't
hint.
see that. Yes.
He also refers to you as his NB during your intimate moments, and his excuse is that an ex-girlfriend used to get a rise when he would refer to her as that. There is something disgustingly wrong about that. You also said that he thinks you also said that he thinks that he should be able to use the N-word because he has a past since he married you. Crickets? Yeah, that's what my thoughts about that is. Okay, here's the deal. Your husband has no respect for you as his wife or as a black woman. I would suggest that you leave him, but you already said you can't. Don't make that suggestion. And you also said that he comes from old money and, you know, you already quit your job. And you mentioning he comes from old money, I already see where your position is. You're blinded. And that's
slave.
why you yes, you're everything that he's saying about you. You're pretty much making it manifest. You're pretty much co-signing it. You know what I mean? I'm afraid that he probably says and does way more worse things that you haven't revealed to us. And my advice to you is to talk to him about this again. Let him know that your vaginal secretions dry up when he says those things, things of that nature, and it's an absolute turn off. Let him know that the other white men that you have dated, even though you didn't, but you could have lied, but you already poured your whole heart out and your whole life story, so he's going to know you're lying, so maybe you might not want to tell. But I think that you should go with my plan B. I would think of everyone, your family is Jamaican, and my family is Jamaican, and one thing I can say about Jamaicans, they've worked with a lot of white people. What I would do is I would concoct a bunch of stuff. I would write things down in terms of all the stereotypes you've heard your family say, and then just roll up on him one day when you see him laying in the bed with his socks on. Be like, hey, baby, didn't you forget to jump in this bed with your shoes? Stuff like that.
Hey, honey, it's the cocaine or the sugar?
Yeah, or perhaps, man, smells like dog in here, baby. Is that you? I really don't like having to go for the tit for tat, because when you love people and no matter what the race is and so on and so forth, that's what it should just be. It should be about love. But stuff like that would have me personally on guard. Now I'm here thinking and strategizing and plotting and planning on what the next thing is for me to say to you, and this is definitely not on. You're not on the road of a healthy relationship at all. He has no respect for you, and I think that you should seek some type of professional help, because obviously he sees the humor in it, and him telling you that his last girl used to like that. Listen, I'm not your last girl, and your last girl wasn't your wife, so don't confuse apples with oranges, like straight up. So, and if all else fails, I think you should consult with Cheyenne Bostek, our guest from last week. He can sit with you guys, and you can actually Google him. Good luck. Yes.
And try investing in some self-esteem.
I know, right? Or yeah.
Ask him if he could purchase that for you, some dignity, some pride.
I know.
And did she notice in the beginning? Did she know?
It sounded as if she's saying, you know what? When our heads are up our rectum, excuse my choice of words, and you're all in love and all the fuzzy stuff, you overlook a lot of things. Now that they're married, girl, you sealed the deal, because now you a part of that old money. You know what I mean? So now you want to take notice. It was all right. I'm sure he said things, because it's very hard for a tiger to change. Was it a tiger or a leopard? A tiger to change its stripes? Yeah. Or a leopard to not have spots or whatever. But anyway, this portion of the show I have coined as Roxanity. During this segment, I like to talk about things that I have found most interesting. I do not discriminate, so some of the topics can occur anywhere around the world. I am a worldly. You can also view all of Roxanity topics in its entirety on my Facebook page, Roxanne Roxanne. Do y'all remember the 90s rapper Vanilla Ice? Y'all remember him?
Of course.
Oh, I remember
Mr.
him.
Frankie, you remember him?
Oh, yeah, I remember him.
Did you like him? Let that rock out, Six.
He exists.
You're so diplomatic. I respect that. Well, he has reinvented himself since Suge Knight tried to extort him for money and royalties as a.
He builds houses now, don't he?
Yeah, he has a show where he, along with the investment groups, they reconstruct houses, they renovate them, and they've been doing really, really good. But anywho. And the name of the show is called the Vanilla Ice Project. Well, Vanilla Ice was charged with burglary when he allegedly broke into a vacant home that he claimed was his. He straight said, allegedly, that the house was his.
He broke into a vacant home.
That was fully furnished.
Wow.
Fully furnished.
He's about as good at burglary as he is at
rapping. I'd say. And it gets better. And it gets, exactly. More, shots fired. Shots fired. Then... Well, he broke into it and allegedly stole some big ticket items. I guess he was caught on camera, and detectives obtained a search warrant and found the goods on his own property. Vanilla Ice was charged with felony of burglary and grand theft and posted a $6,000 bond. $6,000.
Not bad. Yeah, a black person gets charged with burglary. It's like $60,000 bond.
I know. They actually gonna
6 years
because you're a flight risk. You're not getting a bond. You know what I mean? On to the next one. A 17-year-old boy has made the record books for being the first to receive a penis reduction surgery. The young man complained that to his doctor that he was too well endowed and that it was affecting his ability to wear certain clothing, perform sexually, as well as partake in sports. One surgeon said that the 17-year-old's private member resembled an American football crickets. Who shot you?
Now I did,
And this is while it's flaccid.
I did see the picture. Pause. But I had to. Now this is a
Why did you have
awesome.
to?
This
For
is a
research
very-
purposes,
for me,
right?
this is a pause moment.
Okay.
I don't like this article for one reason. Because,
Why?
Okay, first of all, it wasn't too big. It was deformed. It looked like
Yeah,
it was
that's
the elephant
deformed.
man's penis. Like it was not a human looking
Oddly,
penis.
it
looked
was
like
misshapen.
He got punched in it like by like the Hulk, and it just swole up.
So too big is an
Right.
understatement.
There's
Actually, it looked like the Hulk's fist.
right. Like I've
Oh.
seen just by accident, some of these,
All right.
black men, who are very, very big.
Okay.
And you're like, okay, it wasn't like that. It wasn't like
Lord
that. He's
have
trying
mercy.
to take credit for something. I feel he's trying to take the black man's shine. And it's Black History Month.
Who, this guy
and,
here?
yes, and the
Was he
man's
black or was he
dingo
white?
belongs to the black man.
How do
That's
you know
our
he-
thing.
do you know what
was
his
white.
ethnicity-
He was white. Yes.
Oh, was he?
Yes.
Ram.
And don't take from the black man what is ours. We own
Jesus
that.
Lord. Well, listen, he got a reduction, so now it's all yours.
Yeah.
One of the symptoms he had was unwarranted erection, which was caused by abnormally shaped blood cells that blocked the vessels in the peen, causing it to swell and take on that odd shape. Remember American football? Remember Hulk fist? I guess many people, both men and women, would say, what the hell is wrong with you? But hey, you can't allow anything to get in the way of you playing sports, damn it. You dig? And you want to look nice in your clothes. And y'all nasty women, I just had a thought, who love seeing men in sweatpants. He probably would not wear sweatpants, and you guys would probably go ape shit. Excuse my French. Now on to other news. We've got something going on in Italy, man. The racism never stops, and it just seems like people, look, say what you really think. Former Italian manager and football coach Arrigo Sacchi said he's no racist, but Italy is losing its identity because there are too many colored people playing on its team. Sacchi was a renowned coach who brought his country to win 2 back-to-back World Cups in 1989 and in 1990. Sacchi decided to express his opinion during an award ceremony and went on to saying that Italy now has no dignity and pride because too many foreigners are playing. You shouldn't have a squad that includes 15 foreigners. And the crazy part is when he received backlash regarding his comments, he claimed that his remark was taken out of context and that it is not a matter of color. But he recently watched a match and saw 4 black guys on the team. Crickets. You think he's a racist, Mr. Frankie?
I don't know much about crickets. Who plays crickets?
I like it.
Listen,
Can't respond to
Lord
that.
of mercy, right?
I don't know much about crickets.
if you're mad that you can't win at sports without putting some black people on your team, just say that.
Or Venezuelan or anybody that's not Italian. Not to mention, obviously, if they made the team and an Italian, a white Italian, a naturalized Italian or whatever didn't make it, that means that naturalized Italian wasn't good enough.
Yes, can he play?
Yeah, so keep it. You know what? Keep it.
Don't you want to win?
Don't you want to win? Keep your all Italian team and just lose then.
No, that's what
If
they
that's-
should
yeah.
do, and they should make another Italian. And you want to know what's sad? Well, they should make another team. Like, how New York has 2 teams?
Yeah.
They should make another team out there for Italy and let him, well, he's
Like
not.
a Negro League kind of thing situation.
How about, since he still refers to people as colored?
The colored league.
Whenever I hear anybody saying colored, colored, in reference to people of color,
Yeah.
it weirds me out, and I already know.
Use the N word. Hey, you can't expect much out of them. They are Italians.
Oh, God. Gunshots to yourself. You never know who might want to hire us for a fundraiser or something
Well,
like
not
that.
Italian Americans, but over there, they're from the old world.
They might want us out there.
They're not savvy. They don't.
What if they want us to work out there? I'm just kidding. Speak your piece, but yeah, you needed to get shot for that. Oh, the meat and potatoes. How are we doing on time today?
Oh, we're right on time.
Whoop, whoop,
So,
whoop, whoop. Play my
that
song.
being said,
With that being said, don't block my camera with your big old head. I'll look around. Put it up.
Round they go.
You got move, Mr. Frankie?
Oh yeah.
Let me see. He is cooler than a fan. Mr. Frankie is cooler than a fan. You are now listening to Roxanne's Roundtable, R&R. Today's topic is coined as the Black History Edition, Past, Present, and Future. Joining us today is Frankie, the Kingologist Adams, and he's going to give us his take on where we as a culture and race has been, where are we now, and what we need to do to move forward as a people. Without further ado, Mr. Frankie! Frankie Adams, Kingologist. Yeah, you see how long your next week, I want mine just as long as that. I'm not even playing. 2 weeks in a row.
It's the listeners, the viewers.
It's the audience.
It's the audience, yeah. The studio audience is...
Yeah, you know, there was a historian who once said that we should treat history not as dates and events, but as causes and motivations. And I think that that's one of the things that we're going to have to start looking at history, not in a nostalgic sense,
Right.
but look at history in a sense of what were some of the things, the issues back then, what worked, what didn't work. And try and take some of those things that did work and apply them to some of the conditions that exist today. And some of the things that didn't work, just simply discard those things. And I don't think we do enough of that. And to understand where you are and where you're going, you have to know where you came from. Because to understand where you are and where you're going in historical sense is like trying to understand, let's say, algebra without knowing arithmetic, or trying to understand calculus and trigonometry and you don't know algebra.
Or crawling before you walk.
Precisely. You have to know what came before so that you can understand how that timeline works.
Right.
Because just because you're moving doesn't mean you're moving forward.
Right. I know, that's right.
And just because you're moving forward doesn't mean you're moving in the right direction.
You know what? That's interesting you say that. I recently came across an article. It was like 100 facts about Africa that people don't know. And as I was reading it, they were really mainly accounts of Europeans' first encounters with Africans and just other scientific things that just prove that everything's like from math, science.
One-sided. Yeah.
You know, like they even marveled at how when they first got to the Ashanti Empire, the gold, the riches, how the cities had
before their
plumbing
time.
and
Precisely.
sewer systems and all this stuff. And they have us thinking that they rescued us from the jungle.
From the darkness.
Precisely.
From the darkness, from the dark continent. But it's like when you really, when they got into the deep parts of it, just the fact that they had faucets that had running water, and this is like in the 1500s, you're like, wait a second. How did we go from that to the conditions where we should be
and
further?
then conquered, then
advancing.
claimed, then took it and claimed it as their own.
Then you realize we're not in a better place. People say we're a lot better now than we were back then. No, we are still, we look back maybe 50 years we're better, but if you look back 100 years, we're worse.
Precisely. And also you have to look at the point that the civil rights movement during the 60s, those tactics were designed specifically for and applied to change conditions only in the South, a condition which was called segregation, a Jim Crow. By the time we reached the North, the civil rights movement was over. It stopped. And this is where we are now. We have to pick up the baton from that point and start changing some of the larger situations. Because earlier on, if you remember, Malcolm X said that we should stop saying civil rights and start saying human rights. And this is where they
Point blank period.
Exactly. And this is where we are now. We in a human rights situation as opposed to just the civil rights.
Right.
And getting back to the point about history, about what we did in terms of learning mathematics, I've always said that you can't aspire unless you are inspired. You must be inspired to aspire to do something.
Yes.
You know, our kids aspire to be rappers because they are inspired by rappers. Our kids aspire to be athletes because they are inspired by athletes. Our kids don't aspire to be mathematicians and scientists and doctors because they are not inspired to be those things. Now, I would like to think that I'm in a very selective category in a sense that I'm a self-taught mathematician.
Gotcha.
But I wasn't always a self-taught mathematician. What happened was I read a book called Ancient Egypt and the Pyramids. And in that book, I discovered that all of these were black folk, and it were black folk that created mathematics. It was a little short guy who was a student of it. His name was Zozar, and he was a student of Imhotep. And I said, wow, this little short black guy invented mathematics. I went out, I was so inspired, and I got every book that I could find on mathematics and taught myself arithmetic through calculus. And this is what we need to know. This is what our people need to know. Some of the great things that we did, but not just ego trip and sit around and
just hold it and just brag about it.
But
utilize it.
Be
Be inspired, like you said.
Exactly. Realize that DNA is inside of you.
Yes,
And
it's
use
innate.
that.
You
That's
just got to
right.
tap into it.
Tap
And it's
into
funny
it.
that you said, we need to be inspired. It's funny that Six and I were talking one day. A Different World was on, and we're watching. Was it like a documentary on
About a Different World,
About
yeah.
a different world, and we discussed that. My goodness, what like watching those shows made me want to go away to college. I know I'm 25 and I might be a little too old because I know I'm going to be 25 in the next 25 years, but I still would like to go and be a part of that college life. I still want to be in the dorm. I still want to go to school. And, and I guess I'll be living vicariously through my children at this point, but like we had all those things to look forward to. We had Spike Lee's School Days where it talked about college life. In fact, with A Different World, they said that college enrollment spiked.
Triple. In fact, I like a Different World better than I actually watched the Cosby Show.
I think I did too. Yeah.
And, incidentally, my
It was
teacher
fun.
was the lady that ran that dorm in A Different World.
Are you serious?
Her name was Mary Alice. She was
What?
my teacher. My
Wow.
drama teacher. Yeah.
Isn't that something?
And a big inspiration to me directly. And I'll tell you something else about that too, is that when I was growing up, a lot of the artists, they didn't separate themselves from the community. In other words, I can listen to this person's record on the radio, and I can be hanging out with them on the weekend.
Right.
Whereas now, most of the artists is
In Westchester.
They're distant. They are distant from
They're in
their
LA.
and separate from their audience. So, accomplishing what these what their idols do, it's like you gotta reach. You gotta reach out. Whereas with us, they were right around
Embedded.
in the neighborhood.
Right.
Yes. In the past, I would hear the elders say, boy, these kids ain't like they used to be. If I didn't say good evening to an elder, I would get my ear chewed out. What is the difference between the youth in the 70s in comparison to the youth of the present? So we're doing past and present. What's the difference?
Ooh, I'm gonna let Thea answer that question. Remember Thea the comedian?
Thea. She's I remember
heavy-set
Thea.
comedian.
Yes, I remember her.
Wasn't she
used to do
Brandy's
with Brandy?
mother?
Yes.
Brandy's mother on,
On one of those Nickelodeon shows. I remember her.
She was doing a comedy concert.
Right.
And she stopped in the middle of the concert, and the audience went silent. And she said, I'm going to take a few moments to get serious for a moment. She said, black folk out in the audience, stop letting white folk tell you how to raise your children.
More fire, please.
And she went back to her routine.
To the regularly scheduled
but
program.
she dropped her message, and that's the answer.
Yeah, I heard that. In the past, specifically the late 70s to the early 90s, we had groups or individuals like Bob Marley, James Brown, Marvin Gaye, Jill Scott-Heron, Public Enemy, KRS-One, X-Clan, Queen Latifah, and a whole bunch of other artists singing revolutionary songs promoting Black pride. We used to wear leather African medallions. Parents also shied away from giving their children European names. We started hearing Nubian or Arabic names such as Malik, Shabazz, Fatima, and Mecca. In the past, specifically the early 90s, we had the shows or whatever the case may be. Of course, like The Different World, the Black Colleges, the Cosby's, the School Days. To your recollection, what was your memory of us people during that era?
The 90s was the 60s all over again.
That's
what was so...
That's my favorite era.
Yes.
My favorite time was the 90s.
Was the 90s, yeah, the music. Matter of fact, there's a guy that doesn't get the credit that he deserved, which is Teddy Riley, by the way.
Okay,
I see Teddy Riley as the father of hip-hop.
Okay, yes.
And the reason I
That's
said
a New Jack Swing.
He created New Jack Swing. And what is hip-hop but a combination of R&B and rap? Fusing those two together.
Yes.
And Teddy Riley did that first. He was the man. So and the music of the 60s that I listened to, from the 70s, mid-70s up to the 80s, I didn't listen to music again until the 90s.
See?
The groups came back in the 90s. Boys to Men, Jodeci, all of these guys go back to the Temptations, Four Tops of the 60s.
Yeah.
So when you look at the 90s, you're going to see like
I never
an update
saw
of the
that
60s.
that cycle go back around.
That's right, yeah.
In the present, we have like our youth sagging their pants. We also have social media such as World Star, where people are video recording foul acts like the knockout game. You've heard of that?
Yeah, I heard
where they
that,
would be punching people to knock them out. We have music with no substance again. At an alarming rate of black students are dropping out of school. In the past, many children did not attend school because they had to work to help support their families. Do you think today's music and media is encouraging our youth to not aspire? We spoke about that, the pursuit of education.
Absolutely. The question about whether or not music affects people, it shouldn't even be a question. The question should be whether the effect is positive or negative.
Yeah.
The idea that it affects people, shouldn't even be discussed, because music does have an effect. Matter of fact, I'm a living example. I told you earlier, I was on the phone with my idol, Kenny Gamble from Phil International.
Yes.
And I call Kenny my second father. Because
Nice.
I used to not only listen to the songs that he wrote, but I also would read the little quotes that he would have on the back of all the albums of the artists, the OJs.
That's what we look forward to, reading those type of things, no?
Yeah, and I use that actually to help develop my own character. And when I told him about this, he was like, I said, see, music does have an effect on people.
Very inspiring.
And I'm saying to myself, suppose I had been listening to, I won't call any names, but, someone who advocated killing folk, what would I have been doing at this point?
It's funny because I remember seeing, like, right after you had that whole era in the early 90s and everything was real, like, Black Power and everything. And then things got a little bit hardcore. You had Wu-Tang Clan and Onyx and these guys, and everybody went from, like, X-hats to hoodies and Timbs. And I remember people like, oh, I ain't getting dressed up to go to the club and this, that, and the third. And then Biggie comes out, and next you know, those same people who wouldn't get dressed are like,
they're looking nice
Versace
now.
shirts, I'm a player now. They
button down shirts, hard bottom shoes.
To player. And then it's like, so you see the
Suits.
change. But from that change, it just became more consumerism. I think white people got their niche. They're cooks in us.
They know
and they
what it
realize,
is.
like, you know what? Instead of denying them, let's give it all to them and let them just fall in love with our stuff and just give us all their money.
And we've got to stop allowing people to turn our culture into a fashion, a trend, or a style. Because anything that comes in style can goes out of style.
Point blank, period.
So when you take a person's culture and you make it a style, for instance, when the Afros came out during the 60s, that wasn't a fashion or a style. That was a part of our culture. But we allowed them to turn it into a style, so then people cut their Afros off and got Jerry curls and say that's not a style now.
Right.
You
Remember
see?
that?
So anything that in our folk, unfortunately, we have got to get away from this notion or this thing of doing things because it's the end thing. There was a guy that was interviewed on a talk show. Now, I don't know if what this guy said was correct or not. I do know it makes a lot of sense. He said during the late 60s that there was a psychologist who, along with others, who said, what can we do to slow these people down or to hold them back? And the psychologist said that based on my study, he said, if you want to control those people, make something the end thing, because our studies reveal that these people would raise the fires of hell to be a part of the end thing, unquote. And I don't know if that actually occurred or took place, but when you look at how our young people in particular, how they do things, not because it's necessarily logical or makes sense or have any reasoning, but it's in style.
Can I say something though? To a defense, it actually comes from nature. It's using nature of something to destroy it. Like you find, like with white people, they're very separatist. There's very like if one person in the family is rich, it doesn't mean the whole family is rich. It means I'm rich and the rest of my family can be poor. Black people, one of us makes it, we all make it. We move as a unit. You know what I mean? We like to dress the same. We like to do everything. We're not very individualistic. We're very unifying, which is one of our greatest weaknesses. And so it makes following the trend easy.
And there's nothing essentially wrong with that, as long as when we follow the trend, that we examine that trend to see whether or not that trend is going to be positive or negative. It's going to have a positive effect on us or a negative effect on us.
Gotcha.
You see, because during the 60s and 70s, we also followed trends, but those trends were more positive. Even the civil rights movement, believe it or not, there was only a small group of people that were involved in that because they were really sincere about constructive social change. A lot of folk got involved because it became the in thing and a status symbol at
just
that time
go out
period.
there, no different. Not saying that people weren't in agreement with Eric Garner, but I think people just marched out there. Some people just to march, so it's no different. They call you the Kingologist. Why?
Kingologist because I studied the teachings and philosophies and ideas of Dr. King for over 30 years. And I always distinguish myself from others. I'm not a family member. I'm not a follower. I'm not a biographer, because those folk, they focus on his life.
Okay.
I focus on his teaching. And I've always tell folk that I've been a student of many, but a follower of none.
I know that's right.
So if someone were to say something derogatory about, let's say, King's personal life, I have no concern with that. I don't.
Gotcha.
You can't turn me against him because you said something about what he did in his personal life.
Right.
Because I don't care what my 10th grade biology teacher did. Was the biologist she taught me right? That's what I'm concerned about.
Just-
That's all
Coretta's
I'm
problems is Coretta's problems.
Exactly. That's his personal stuff. I don't care what
Exactly.
he did.
Ask Roxy if she needs to know.
I used to make this, and I don't say this lightly, I don't mean it jokingly or to make light of tragic events, but I asked my black friends if you were on the plantation and Harriet Tubman came along and she said, look, I got this Underground Railroad. I can get you away from all of this bad treatment that the masters inflict upon you. Would you say, Harriet, I heard you slept with so-and-so the other night. Would you be concerned about that? Well, would you get on the railroad?
On the railroad.
If I'm a Jewish person and I'm in one of these vehicles being taken away to be brutalized or murdered,
right.
and all of a sudden a guy stopped me and his name is Schindler, and he said, come on, I got a way to save you. I'm not going to turn away from Schindler because I heard that he slept with his cousin last night. I don't care about that.
Right, or
At
he was
this
an
point.
alcoholic or whatever the case
Exactly.
may be.
That's not
I
my
understand.
concern. You see, and that's the mindset that
Yeah,
we
yeah.
have got to start developing.
Right.
And that's what I meant by Kingologist. I study his teachings, his ideas, and his philosophies, and I don't care about what he did personally. And there's a
Gotcha.
lot to be learned from his teachings, by the way.
But can I ask a
Absolutely.
question for a lot of people, such as myself, who don't particularly agree with Dr. King's philosophies?
Let me stop you right there.
Okay.
I've always tell people, don't disagree or agree until you understand what his philosophy actually was.
That's what I said. I was going to ask you. I was going
right.
to ask you because our perception is that he wanted us to integrate, to learn to work together with white people in America, and felt that there was a way that we can all get along positively and be well. And as we see, integration actually destroyed us rather than hurt us. We were better off. Even the Native Americans made out better than us. They fought it out to the end, and they ended up with casinos, and we don't got nothing still. You know what I mean? So it's like
Okay. I'm
break
glad
it down.
I got something. Just allow me to read this right here. Right now, Dr. King had a meeting with Elijah Muhammad. Right. He had that meeting last over an hour, and at the end of that meeting, he came out agreeing with Elijah Muhammad because they had both had misconceptions about each other. Martin
Gotcha.
Luther King's concept of integration is not what is being promoted. The image of Dr. King that you see in mainstream is not the real Dr. King. I'm going to read a quote from you, and I want you to tell me, had you ever heard this before? This is Dr. King. He said, what is necessary now is to see integration in political terms where there is a sharing of power. When we see integration in political terms, then we recognize that there are times when we must see separation as a temporary way station to a truly integrated society. There are many black people who feel this. They do not see separation as the ultimate goal. They see it as a temporary way station to put them in a bargaining position to get to that ultimate goal. I must honestly say that there are points at which I share this view. There are points at which I see the necessity for temporary separation in order to get to the integrated society.
He dropped the beat.
Dr. King made that statement about 2 weeks before he was assassinated.
Of course.
Oh wow.
2 weeks, and he made that to a group of Jewish rabbis, by the way. That meeting. I have the whole transcript of that. And that was after the meeting he had with Elijah Muhammad when they were asking him to denounce Elijah Muhammad, which he refused to do because the Poor People's Campaign that he had set up, Elijah Muhammad was going to be the centerpiece of the organization in that Poor People's March and that Poor People's Campaign.
So that wasn't an option.
Which didn't happen, years later it turned into what we call the Million Man March.
Wow. So do you think that MLK would be happy with us right now?
Oh, absolutely not. No, he wouldn't be. He wouldn't be because we got off track. There was a saying during that time period, keep your eyes on the prize. And I think we took our eyes off of the prize. Now, during the 80s, myself and a few others used to have some criticism of, quote, the Cosby Show. Right? And then the argument that we would get back from folk, well, are you trying to say that black people are not lawyers, black people are not doctors, yada? What's wrong with that? And the problem that we had with that was there was nothing essentially wrong with being a doctor or a lawyer as long as that's a means and not an end. And on that show, it was treated as an end and not as a means.
Right.
A means to an end. Because remember, we weren't fighting to become doctors and lawyers because we had doctors and lawyers.
Right.
You know,
From the beginning.
we had all those people. Those people were fighting for something else. So that couldn't have been the goal. We weren't fighting for middle classism because Martin Luther King was middle class.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny because my mother, she told me when she would meet people from the South, she thought they were crazy when they talk about racism and segregation. And she's like, she was born in Harlem. And she was like, "What do you mean?" She was like, the lawyer's black, the doctor's
Everybody
black,
was
the banker's
embedded in
black,
that
the-
in the
everybody's
community.
black. The doctors, everybody, the insurance company, everybody you saw, everything was black owned, black operated. So she's like, "What do you mean black people can't do this or can't do that?"
Yeah,
she
it's like
didn't
a culture
have
shock.
a clue. But then,
Right.
of course, after integration, just like even like Little Africa survived the National Guard dropping bombs on it. But integration destroyed it because as soon as they said, "Okay, we're going to integrate," I think
black
integration
dollar.
wasn't about us. It was about getting our money that was
black
locked
dollar.
in our community out, and then foreign money in. It just was completely didn't work on our behalf. I actually heard King say that he integrated his people into a burning house. I just heard that.
That's
phrase.
what he told Harry Belafonte, and it was actually a misinterpretation of integration. In fact, Adam Clayton Powell Jr. told Martin Luther King, maybe you should stop using the word integration and use the word desegregation because a lot of people is misinterpreting what you say.
Right.
Just like I know what
They're
Dr.
using
King
the
means.
Webster dictionary version,
Exactly.
perhaps.
Yeah, and then you
not
have
what it.
yeah, right. And then you have elements in the dominant community. They know how destructive and harmful that interpretation of integration would be to our community, and they promoted that definition. That's what
Took it
my
and ran
job
with
is
it.
to go around and correct that definition of what King actually meant.
So do you
That's
think,
what I mean by Kingologist.
Do you think that his image, his everything has been perverted,
Totally distorted.
as an American weapon? Because their weapons aren't always
They're
guns;
using
they're
him,
mind weapons.
They're using him against us now.
Right.
By distorting his image almost in the same way that they use Christ's image against a lot of people who are genuinely concerned about
yep.
Christianity. That's what they're doing, and they did it in 40 short years, so imagine what they can do in 2000.
It's funny that you say Marcus Garvey believed that change would not come from African American unless we change the perception of ourselves. Garvey also knew that religion played a huge role in the black community. As we look towards the future, what do you think must happen in order to reprogram our perception? Do you think that the black church or the church can help facilitate this thought?
The church has been infiltrated. It has been infiltrated, and now it's being used against our communities. If you go back to in the how could I put it, the zenith of that? It reached its peak when Obama was running for president,
Right.
And he had to denounce his main minister, and his main minister didn't say anything.
I remember that.
The Reverend C.L. Franklin, Aretha Franklin's
I
father,
remember
didn't say
that.
during the '60s, or Martin Luther King didn't say. So as you can see, the kind of enthusiasm and power that the church had during that time period, they took that power away from the church, and the church has degenerated into what Martin Luther King said as an irrelevant social club.
Man, as an educator, which you are, what can we as parents do at home to help further develop the thinking of our black daughters and sons? Should we take them to see movies like Selma and 12 Years a Slave, or mine and Six's favorite movie, The Django?
Well, actually,
Sorry.
my sons, I have two sons, and they grew up knowing as much about that time period as I did because I spent 7 days showing them Roots. I
love Roots.
7 days showing my students Roots, but I had to explain to them.
Yes, yes.
You know, you have to explain. Don't just watch it, but explain to them
Yes.
so they can understand it.
Exactly.
Right? I let them watch The Greatest. The movie of Muhammad Ali, because there's some sophisticated things that's happening now. When Whitney Houston did the song "The Greatest Love of All," and a lot of folk don't realize what happened with her version of that song. It changed the actual meaning of
remember
the
that?
song
Yeah.
because that song was written for Muhammad Ali, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and Dr. Benjamin Spock during the '60s. It was written by a girl named Linda Creed.
Gotcha.
She
Wow.
wrote the song with Micah Meza for the movie "The Greatest" because Muhammad Ali refused to go into to submit to the draft, and he sacrificed money for that. And Dr. King sacrificed his life, and Dr. Benjamin Spock sacrificed his fame as a child doctor.
Right.
And she said, no matter what they take from me, they can't take away my dignity. That's what that song was all
That's
about.
what I thought when I heard it. I didn't think of and I was like about 10 when that song came out, but I thought of it something just bigger than
Right.
whatever people
Than
probably like a loved one or something like
Right.
that. But we've got to wrap it up. I have to ask you one more question. This is the last weekend as we celebrate Black History Month. What prominent black figure, in your opinion, has been overlooked?
Ooh, that's a good one. There's a lot.
Just name one.
One.
Unless you just want to list a whole bunch of them, and our listeners need to get on Google,
Start looking it out.
and look some people up. Give them some research.
I stumped him, y'all. Y'all saw that. This was really Stix's question.
Mr. Frankie, give him some homework.
I would say James Farmer.
James
No,
Farmer?
no.
That's one. That's one.
Okay, drop another one.
George Washington Carver.
Okay.
George
Carver
Washington
Bank.
Carver. The man is responsible for every.
I got
Give us one we never heard of before. Give us one we never heard of before.
Wow.
Come on, we're gonna give him some homework to do.
Wow.
Go in that mental Rolodex. I know that the engines are turning.
How about in the field of mathematics? In the field of mathematics.
I would say Zosa. Do some research on Zosa.
Can you spell it for people because they're not gonna find it.
Zozar.
Okay.
And let me ask one more question. One more statement in the question. Former NBA star Karl Malone was reported to have said that blacks need to stop looking for handouts. Azalea Banks, she's like an artist, a rapper, recently stated that blacks need to be paid for reparation. Can you give me your take on those comments? Do you think that we always looking for handouts and that we need to be paid for reparation?
They're just not going to do it.
That's a given. Like, that's almost a no-brainer.
That's why I don't even. They know that what they owe us, but they're not going to do it. And I think we need to do for self. Let me say, Martin Luther King spoke to a guy from Africa in 1963, and he laid out a list of things that was happening to us here in this country. And the guy waved his hand, and he took Martin Luther King's paper, and he threw it in the garbage. And he said, I mean no disrespect, Mr. King, but I know what's going on with the black man in America. I know what the white man is doing to the black man in America. Now tell me, what is the black man doing for himself?
Period. I would like to end this by reading one of Dr. Martin Luther King's quote. If you can fly, then run. If you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, you have to just keep moving forward. Keep moving forward, black people. Mr. Frankie, I want to give a special thanks and shout out to to Frankie Kingologist Adams for chatting with us. Frankie is also a musician and has written a song with a super powerful message. Please give the listeners your social media information if you don't mind. Do you have anything that you want to share with them so they can check you out? Or
yes, they can check me out on www.mccupid.com, and that's Cupid with the Q, Q-U-P-I-D.
Nice. Yes. And I will also be posting the information on Facebook. Don't forget, you can catch Roxanne Roxanne here every Sunday from 2 to 3 p.m. Follow me on Twitter at Roxanne Roxanne, Roxanne Rocks, and the number 1. On Facebook at Roxanne Roxanne, and on IG at Roxanne Roxanne NYC. For all inquiries, including advice, questions, and sponsorship, please email me at info@roxanneroxanne.rocks, R-O-C-K-S. Thank you guys for listening and be well. Can you take this last song out of here? You got it?
You want to introduce it?
You want to introduce
this
song?
Yes, it's a song called What a Way to Live. And it's a song that came to mind when I thought about the first speech that Dr. King did when the civil rights movement first started. And they asked him why did he think that Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat. And he said it was very simple, that she was tired. And I look around at some of the conditions that exist in our community with the death of our children, the educational system, housing, and my question to when are we going to get tired?
Listen, like I've always said, when you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, change will come. Six Starborn, take us out of here.
Now ain't you tired of hearing politicians lie? Ain't you tired of seeing our children dying? We've got to save them, protect and educate them. Not too many of us are trying. Now ain't you tired of seeing mothers dressed in black, with so many tears falling from their eyes, 'cause they can't bring their children back. What a way to live. People crying. What a way to live. People dying. What a way to live. People crying. What a way to live. People dying. Now ain't you tired of seeing people sleeping on the streets? with nowhere to bathe or take care of nature, and they don't have no food to eat. Now ain't you tired of seeing people without necessities? There are only a few with more than enough. They're wallowing in luxuries. Now ain't you tired? Children corrupted before they reach the age of 10. Little girls abusing their bodies, and boys, they lucky if they live to be men. We gotta do something. People crying before it's too late. People dying. I know we can change the world, but we can't afford to wait. People dying. This ain't no way to live. What a way to live. What a way to live. What a way to live. We gotta teach the children. We gotta teach the children. We gotta save the babies. We gotta save the babies. We gotta love one another. Love one another. Look out for each other. Look out for each other. This ain't a way to live.